Hello there and welcome to Planet Collingwood Open Roundtable. My name is Monty Dean. A big thank you to Why Not and the Y-Files and crew. If you enjoyed the last 2 hours, go to freedomslips.com and or revolution.radio and donate what you can, because Revolution Radio is 100% listener supported and 100% listener volunteer as well. So no money here except for donations to pay the bills, because that's the reality we live on Earth at this point in time. Well, also, once you're at the website, pop in, buy some merch, hats, T-shirts, onesies for the little ones, and then pop into the chat room and hang out with like-minded, like-hearted, and just liked people. There's also the archives, which I believe are still free at this point in time, and so if you've missed any shows, you can listen to them at your leisure. Because there's 144 hours in a week and there's 2 studios. So if you can listen to everything, you never sleep and you have both studios running at the same time. Now, this is an open roundtable, so if you're on my contact list on Skype, just send me a message and I'll add you to the call. And if you're new, my Skype contact is Monty_Dean, and we'll become friends and contacts and send love letters and flowers. No chocolate, because electronic chocolate's just wrong. And then I'll add you to the call as well. It's an open house at this point in time. I just turned up to the green room and just a tumbleweed floating through, gave me the finger and then left. I mean, dead fauna, how rude. So what has been going? I do know that there's a confirmation hearing for ACB. That's all I remember of her name. I do apologise. I can't remember actually her full name. But there has been one thing that has popped up on my radar, where a senator or someone asking the question, grilling her, what notes are you working with? And she hold up a blank piece of paper because she's all going by memory. That is impressive. And Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules in the 90s on the TV show, basically said, she's not working with notes. And the meme is, when you've got seven kids, you're used to dumb questions or stupid questions. He's a conservative Christian, so I don't think he gets much work in Hollywood. But he seems to be quite sane and got common sense on the on the Twitter, which is very rare. And from REM broadcasting from a undisclosed location in Helborn, the police state of Victoria, in the penal colony that is Australia. And a lot of things have happened. The omnibus bill went through the upper house last night, late into last night, where now it's supposed to go down to the lower house, the legislative council, as they call it. And let's see, there we go. And apparently some of the restrictions came back because there was an idea of trying to make anyone that works for the government able to arrest COVID people that have got that have COVID or are suspected from COVID. So basically a bit of Gestapo-esque. So, it's kind of starting to look like a new world order after all. Now, I've been joined by another Victorian. Let's get him up here and buff him. Pones, how are you, my friend?
Quite well.
Yes, still in stage 4, like yourself. And without knowing...
Stage 4? Is that like cancer?
Well, for the economy it is. We're still in stage 4 lockdown, which... They're not sure it will end on the 19th because the numbers aren't low enough, so it may go to the 26th. I'm like,
we haven't been vaccinated yet, and they haven't put us on blockchain. So,
no, well, they don't have a vaccine because every time they, was it Johnson and Johnson? Oh, we're stopping the trials because the guinea pigs, the volunteers are getting sick. I'm like, no, really?
It's got the mutant gene in it.
Oh, well, see, now I don't mind, as long as I can fly.
Look what it did to Trump.
Yeah. I have seen him dancing and everything else like that, and like I know if you've been listening to the show, we have an analogy of don't pick a side, pick your own side. Sit on the sidelines and just watch the game. But I'm getting to the point where I'm finding the game boring, and I'm about to stand up and look for the exit. It's like, whatever, dude.
I went back into the hologram we built called PlayStation and
Ooh.
PUBG. I'm living in a sandbox reality while living in a sandbox reality.
Well, yeah, and of course, when you play games, they've got games in the games. It's like, are you taking the piss?
That's it. I had some analogy, but I've forgotten it completely.
Oh, that's Planet Calling for you. He'll come back.
About semen in a cup or something, but yeah.
You mean sailors?
No.
Oh, risque at 5 o'clock in the afternoon here in Victoria.
It was going to be. I was going to steal it from The Simpsons, who stole it from the Outer Limits or something. The growth of civilization within the bowl of Coca-Cola or something.
Yeah, the petri dish.
Yeah.
That's
what we are.
Yeah. And that's manifesting in masks. So, as above, so below.
How's that?
Because some people. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was thinking of the guy who's running the simulator. He's bending over at work, looking at the petri dish, and he's got a mask on. And we're looking up. God, is that you?
Why are you hiding your face, God? Thou shalt not see the face of God. Why not? There's a mask.
Yeah, he's supposed to be useless.
Yeah. Apparently, another tidbit from Victoria is the school kids have gone back to school after, I think, 5 months of staying home. So there's a lot of relieved parents out there at the moment. Like, oh, thank God.
They would be actually happy, because I remember being at school and having holidays and getting to those last days going, God, it's so boring. I can't wait to get back to school. So it was a balancing act we all had to do, I think.
Yeah. Plus, there was only so much. We couldn't really do much without money. So, and yeah.
And family.
That too.
How's the audio quality? Is it okay?
Yeah, you sound quite good. Coming in nice and clear.
Yeah. I've got a new laptop. Finally fixed everything. It's running smooth. Very happy. About time. I think it's been like about 7 years since I bought a new one.
And that's a long time in computer speak.
Oh, no. I did buy one about 2-3 years ago, but I pretty much sold it a month or two later. Those banksters, man, when they shake you down, you got to pay up.
Yeah. I've talked to like Andrew Bartis, the galactic historian, about stuff like that. Why is it the only thing that has to be honoured on this planet is debt? And apparently that's the dark side bringing that in. It's like, you can rape, murder, kill, steal, but if you borrow money, you have to pay it back. I'm like, really? That's the only thing? What about being nice and kind and moving forward? We've also been joined by HiJacker. HiJacker, are you here?
Yes.
Right here, Monty. How you doing, Pony?
Good, mate. You?
Well, I'm just waiting for the next 20 days to find out what happens with the Queen's penal colony, Australia, whether she's going to sell it to the Chinese or not.
Yeah,
so
they've bought up most of it, so I wouldn't be surprised. Even HiJacker, are you aware that the Victorian government have actually signed on to the Belt and Road project from China?
Oh, I'm sure of that. Yeah. No, I'm just waiting to see if the Aussies are going to go the way of the South Africans, except instead of the blacks dominating you, it's going to be the Chinese. There's a big election over here in the United States for you guys. If Biden gets in, bye-bye.
I think even bye-bye for Biden. I think that's but the plan is get Biden to win, and then 3 weeks later, Nancy Pelosi pulls out the 25th Amendment, and Harris gets in because Harris is more controllable because she seems to be very excited. She was pummeled in the primaries, especially by Tulsi Gabbard. So, watch that. It's like 3 minutes of Tulsi just hammering her with all the crap that she did, and that's why she dropped out. And so now she's back. It's very, very strange. And
the very fact that somebody who only got 2% in a Democratic primary, who's from a state that the Democrats already got locked up, California, and if she would actually be put on the ticket, I mean, what the hell is that? That makes no kind of sense whatsoever. So,
apart from she's a female person of color.
Right. Well, now people are saying that, her mother's Indian and I guess her dad was Jamaican. Both of them look like basically white people. She might have maybe a quarter black in her. So she's majority, I guess, Caucasian.
Yeah, and like Jamaican, because they're part of the slave trade, not the country now, but because there were 400 years of traveling and stuff. So there is that link to Africa because they're all intermixed and everything else like that. But that's just like a tidbit. I mean, with everything that we know, especially in 2020, people just ignore that and move on, or you get called a racist because you're bringing up legality. Like the whole thing about Obama, you can't bring up the birth certificate because that's racist. No, it's not. It's a legal procedure. It's just a piece of paper. How is it racist? Calling him a black, blah, 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 blah. Well, actually, if I can just be so bold, I get upset when people say he's the first black president. His mother's white. He's mixed raced. He's not black. He's half black. And because he's half white, that's probably why I didn't trust him.
He's probably more. That's an actual Islamic name. He could be more Arab than anything else. If you actually take a look at him, he looks more Arab than it.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. He did move to Indonesia, which is highly Islam, and so I think he got the name there or something. But even Steven Spielberg, after he did the Abraham Lincoln film, he was asked, "Would you make a film about Barack Obama?" And he said, "I would if we knew anything about him." We've been joined by Cortek, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, good afternoon.
How you going? All right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Abraham Lincoln, did you see in Portland his statue was knocked over?
Abe's?
Yeah. The guy that helped free the slaves, he was pulled down by Antifa.
There's a lot of momentum. People didn't know really what they were doing. It's just statues of all kinds they were having a go at.
Well,
Whispers what people are actually doing when there's a mob there. The first guy knows what they're doing. Kind of gets.
Well, I feel bad for all the pigeons because they're all homeless. And apparently, according to the Babylon Bee, which is a parody site, the pigeons are now crapping on Antifa.
I can't make the boom test or the cricket sound.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, that's how people love Antifa. Like, yep, that sounds about right. So
that makes me think of where do seagulls go at night?
Out to sea.
I don't know.
So,
what was HiJacker saying was going to happen if it goes to
yeah, well, if I may, he went global. He actually said it would be interesting to see. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen in the United States after the election because if there's three options of one wins, the other wins, or it's undecided, there's still going to be chaos because someone's going to, drop, spit the dummy / pacifier. However, when the outcome is finally reached, it's going to ripple around the globe. Like, say, here in Victoria, I think they wanted to go for Biden because they're against Trump. And so if Biden wins, it's going to be more emboldening and like, we can do more because, we've got America on our side and, all that type of stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Many times I hear that, it always makes me laugh.
Well,
my point was Biden was going to sell out Australia, just like he's going to sell out Taiwan. These are communists.
What do you mean by sell out? What's the definition of sell out to you, HJ?
Well, all you're talking about is basically pulling, Americans' cover, Navy, turning a blind eye, whatever your leaders in there, whatever treason they want to commit against your own country, selling farmland or whatever. He's not going to stop it. They may do something with Pine Gap because it's national security. They may even fracture Australia up into like 3-4 different countries.
Or different states or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may split the federation into the states because there's enough landmass. Interesting enough, the Chinese like to buy a lot of things, and so they've bought a lot of things. So I think what HiJacker is getting to is that they can go more out of the open and just sort of buy things and try and become the superpower and allow the US will allow things to happen. Others say, like, a sane American was like, please stop bombing Taiwan, if you know what I mean. That type of thing.
We don't have a lot of things in place to stop that. I mean, you hear stories about things getting bought up, but really there's not a lot of law in place to stop people doing that. I thought the whole dairy industry of New Zealand was Chinese-owned at the moment, or it has been completely bought up. So, like, milk, if you're living over there, is really expensive.
Well, yeah.
That may not be the case.
Well, we remember Australia used to have automotive industry, and someone who works on cars is Opal. Aust, are you, or shall we call him Paul?
Just Paul will do. Yeah, because obviously most of us are in Australia at the moment on Monty Dean's show because it's from Melbourne. So, the LP industry failed first, and then they took out all the cars as well. And that was because China was coming down and learning all the stuff from us.
Yeah, they're very good at that. They've got that strange thing about copyright. Say, if HiJacker comes up with an idea in the Western countries, he can go to the patents office, and if I decide to make something, make the thing that HiJacker created, I have to give him royalties or something like that because I'm using his idea. Now in China, they'll just say, "Oh, HiJacker make a good idea. Everyone make one." And because the global thing, they don't care who came up with the idea, and they don't get reparations or whatever reward for doing it. It's like, well done, and then that's why there's all these Chinese knockoffs.
Well, there's so many. They've got, so many manufacturing plants out there that people were having a look at Kickstarter campaigns that hadn't even started yet, and by the time that Kickstarter campaign was funded, the product was out in China. Just looking at those for new ideas and designs, and just because they had the manufacturing there already to go, just jumping ahead. It's hard to combat.
One way of one thing, like from a cultural point of view, is the toys industry. Like Star Wars is globally known, and people change the Star Trees or whatever, and there's a lot of bootleg stuff out there. It almost looks like Darth Vader, but it's called Dark Vader or something strange like that. So they don't have to give a license fee to back then George Lucas. And so that's where, up until recently, like in the last decade, everything seems to be China, which is that globalism thing. It was like, China can make everything. Australia can have wheat, and America, whatever. Before that, and now everything's made in China. But before that, it's like you wouldn't trust something made in China because it would be faulty or very cheap, below standard. It's probably about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months. Did you see the video that was circling, going around, going a bit viral? That the Chinese building industry, where if you got a broom and poked a hole through one of the walls, 3 floors would collapse because it's like using paper mache and blood and bone instead of actually, like, say, steel and concrete.
Sketch. Someone used a lot of bamboo, but that's pretty strong stuff. The scaffolding.
When used correctly. But some guy, like, with his car accidentally backed into an apartment building, and the facade of it cracked and dropped from 7 floors down. It's really strange type of video. Looking at like, what building code? Do they have a building code at all? And then you hear about, in the conspiracy world, that there are ghost towns that can hold up to 20 million people. China's not that big.
Yeah, they're kind of crazy. Surplus of concrete or something, and what do we do with it? Well, we can't just let it sit there. I don't get it. I don't get.
Also, the Chinese don't really need to start a war. They just need to immigrate. because they're over 1 billion people. 1 in 7 people on the planet is Chinese. 1 in 7 is Indian. So when those two go to war,
Yeah, and then you got to think about what Australia is only like 30 million.
yeah, about 25 million in the size in the size of the continental United States, and like during World War II, if the Japanese actually had a land invasion, Australia would pull back to what was called the Adelaide-Brisbane line, and they drew a line from Brisbane to Adelaide and give the Japanese the desert basically, and then Australia would defend the green bits.
Sounds fair.
Well, yeah, but that's why our SAS are so one of the top-notch sort of specialty commando groups. Because look at our backyard. They actually here's a spoon and a plastic bag. See you in 2 weeks.
I've heard some SAS stories. They run them so hard.
That's
They run
nice.
them around. A spoon?
That was actually being nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was a plastic spoon.
That's more to the point. And a water canteen. And that's it.
Yeah, and that's what I never understood, where Australian politicians, they would start goading Indonesia, who have 200 million people, 90% of them are Muslim. They live on a postage stamp, and we have all this space, and the governments are going, oh, they're inferior. What are you, idiots? like they just come, they don't have to fire a shot. They just, half of them get in a boat and come over and then just turn up. Because, as HiJacker just said, if we've got 25 million people, we couldn't even, crowd control the bouncers for 100 million people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is something to think about because I think China's only about, maybe at the most, how far would China be from Australia? About 3,000 miles?
Much more than that, because I think
depending where you're going.
You're inferring that China's going to invade here before they invade there, HiJacker?
Well, I don't think they would ever think about a full-scale invasion of the United States.
No, everyone's got guns.
I don't think they'd think about a full-scale invasion of anywhere in this current climate.
But
no, because... No, go ahead, sorry.
No, Monty's right. If they wanted to actually do a land invasion of Australia, and the United States basically had an inside deal where they would stand by and say, look, yeah, we owe you $1.5 trillion. Tell you what, if you do pick a fight with Australia and invade them, I can see Biden say, well, we're just going to stand back and we're going to think about it a while.
Yeah, I can see the US doing some deal like that.
Well, yeah, because right now with Trump, and I think even with Obama as well, I described it 1 or 2 shows ago. Australia is like the son or daughter of a parents that split up, like divorced parents, where we're friends with the United States, but we have massive trade with China, and so we're trying to have our cake and eat it, and so
trying to coerce 2 Christmas presents.
Yeah. It's like I have ice cream at China and I get pizza at the United States. Now, if Biden gets in and he becomes Biden, where because he likes the Chinese, and especially his son gets a lot of money from them, apparently, allegedly. Now, the thing is, I can see HiJacker's point where Biden will go, yeah, my Chinese overlord says it's fine, so Australia, suck it up. And, of course, China will probably go through Asia to get to Australia as well. Or start at Australia and go back up.
Yeah, too costly.
Not really, because...
they stand to lose more than they gain.
Not if they do it right, where if it's not really traditional military combat. Because they have been buying things, and I think Darwin, the Chinese have got, they've leased the Darwin seaport.
What they want is respect, and they're not going to do that invading a country.
Well, see, that's the other thing as well. There's 2 types of Chinese people. There's the lovely people that have thousands of years of culture, and the government that sucks because they're communists and they think they're better than everyone else. But they need to save face. So if they tried it and didn't work, because I think every Australian, even Chinese Australians, like, no, stop that. Even New Zealand's like, yeah, no, because and I'm sure Russia will step in. Oh, that's the now, HiJacker, if you can step in as here, because the idea is at the moment, it may have changed, of course, but that's why I'm asking the question. China wouldn't really do anything. It may defend itself, but it wouldn't attack because you've got that the Russia being an older brother tapping on the shoulder, like, stop that. However, say if the United States attack China, Russia will step in, if that makes sense. So I don't really see China really doing something bold because they need to appease the Russians.
Right. Until if we fall in the next 20 days and the Democrats get the House, the Senate, and the presidency, where they can just legalize 30, 40 million illegals, they can make the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, basically a 52nd and a 53rd state, or 51st and a 52nd state. They get rid of the Electoral College, go by, whoever gets the majority vote, pure democracy, so to speak, then it's over. China and the United States literally have become one. The Chinese won. Now, then the question is with this mass of this cabal who are, communist, one world government, going to one world currency, then all of a sudden all bets are off. Russia's all alone with China on the border. And so I don't think they can, I don't think the Russians could actually stop. In fact, if you actually take a look at a lot of Russians, of the 145 million or 44 million, there's a sizable portion that's both Muslim and a sizable portion that are some kind of mix between Slavic and Asian people in Siberia. In fact, take a look at some of their military lineup and take a look at some of the people. It's more and more Asian, and it's just a matter of time before, the Asian man outbreeds basically the Caucasian type of Russian. That's why Putin had these sex camps. Basically, he had this brilliant idea. We need to bring the population up, so he got a bunch of 15 and 16-year-old boys to have like a summer camp with 14, 15, 16-year-old girls, and a lot of pregnancies.
Teenagers.
But
I can understand where, because Russia itself on a map is a third of Asia. It goes from the Pacific to Eastern Europe, and I think the concentration of population seems to be near Eastern Europe because you've got that Viking element where it started out and a long, long time ago, but they stretch across to Siberia, obviously. And
I think it's like something like 13 or 17 time zones. And if you actually take a look at the actual population of Russia, it's basically 6, maybe tops, 12 cities, with St. Petersburg and Moscow being the mega city. In fact, I think Moscow's like 40 million. It's like 1/3 of all the Russian population is either in Moscow or like on the outskirts. It's got rings around it, beltways.
Yeah.
Good enough to go into Russia.
Yeah. So if the United States falls, Russia knows they're next on the menu. And like Australia, your problem is, it's like in Africa. There was a movie made about what was it called? Blood Diamonds. That's right. And so Nigeria, someplace down there, they found diamonds, and a lot of them. And then the child army started up. Everybody started jockeying for power to try to grab a gold mine. And right at the end of the movie, where it shows that where you actually get a diamond to put on the ring of, your wife, and I'm a 2-carat woman or whatever, where I never I never. In fact, I had to sell the wedding ring real shortly after we were married. We were already in war, but but at the end of the movie, the one guy is saying to the other character, he says, "Thank God it was only diamonds. Can you imagine if we had struck oil?" And that's Australia's problem. You're rich. Australia is rich. You got all kinds of natural resources. Same with Russia. Russia is rich, and that's your all's problem. Is that wealth ultimately is going to bring these psychopaths to your shores. So that's what I'm saying. In 20 days, you better hope President Trump wins. Or if I were you guys, I'd start building like boats and stuff like that, yachts.
It's an island. We got plenty of boats.
Yeah, but New Zealand's the only place we could go, really. And
There's a couple little islands in the Pacific. Come on.
They'll find us, though. Now, we have been joined, finally, because Skype's being Skypey. We've been joined by the Viking. How are you, sir? I think we can hear you.
You might be muted, Viking.
Okay. Technical difficulties, so he's left, so... while he figures that out, we'll continue on. I'm just finding it with diamonds, there's a false scarcity as well. That's what elevates the price, and so there is a lot of money involved. So,
Like diamond was all around De Beers, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, well, if I was in Australia, only because I've seen a lot of footage, but you guys got the best sapphires, rubies.
Oh yes,
I mean. You were really, if you knew how to rock hound jade, if you knew how to do that, if I was in Australia, man, I'd put the backpack on. Yeah, go ahead.
I told you ages ago that I was a rock hound and I had my license and the whole lot. Still got it. I know where it all is. I can.
We can go searching for rubies if you want to.
Yeah, well, unfortunately,
they're bloody hard to find, them ones. But yeah.
But unfortunately, Paul's in Melbourne, where you can only go 5 kilometres from his house, and Melbourne has got a ring of steel, so we can't go out. And a great place for Opal is Cooper Pedy, which is in Western Australia, and all the state borders are closed as well because. I was on another show and they asked, why can't Monty leave? And I've just gone, well, I can only go 5 kilometres from my house. Melbourne is locked in and the state borders are closed as well and we can't leave the country. So it was like ring after ring after ring. And yeah, it seems to be that we're living in a bad horror movie.
Well, if you take a look, by the way, speaking of opals, if you actually take a look at the most expensive opal ever found, it was by an Aussie. And he was a prospector, except what he did it like I did it. I do it with gold. You get a lot of soil, basically, and you work your way through it. So he had gotten a dump truck, and he would take his dump truck, go get a big load, and then he would take it back to his farm or whatever, and then he would process it out and see what he got. And so he found his biggest opal. He said, okay, I'm going to retire now. I made a good living. I'm going to do one more run. I'm going to get one more dump truck load. And so that's what he did. There was actually a documentary on the guy. And so he went out, he got one last load, he processed it out, and he found, I think, the most valuable opal. Look that up, or it was a ruby or a sapphire. I'm not sure. But he found what's that?
They're super pretty rocks of opals, and they're all slightly different. They're all individual. They're just pretty. Yeah,
Cortek put in the link for it. Rare 655,000 opal makes public, whatever, it goes public. Unfortunately, 675,000 will buy you 2/3 of a house in Melbourne. But still, that's, I wouldn't say no to nearly $700,000 Australian.
It's nice for a little rock.
Yeah, well, how does it say how big the rock is? Probably a kilo or something.
There's no hand next to it. I can't.
Oh no, it's probably 4 or 5 carats. Opal.
No, less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 4 or 5 grams, I think.
Tiny then.
Yeah, look up on, I don't know if you can Google it now or not, but look up Aussie hits it big with last dump truck load, something like that, and you'll see what he found. And everything that he had found up to that point in that one rock, I mean, he hit it big. It was like the lotto, the jackpot. I think the Queen bought it. I'm not sure. You got to look it up. I just remember the story.
Wouldn't surprise me because her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, Prince Albert, her husband, German chap, they got the biggest diamond ever found was, I think it's the Star of India, and because she was the Empress of India at the time, and so it was transported from India to England, but Albert kept cutting it down, and at some point, I think the jeweler was, "What the hell are you doing, you German sausage? What why are you just slowly chipping it away till it's perfect?" And I think 60% of it was cut away eventually.
No, I think it was 33%. Up to 40%.
Up to 40. Yeah, okay.
60% remained.
Yeah, but still, that's a third of it was chipped away. So some elite git thought, "Oh, this looks nice." Like, really? Well, that's history for you. That's what we're told, anyway.
But it's interesting how they decided. It's like the British learned through the American experiment how not to open up a new land. In other words, they did the colonies got away from them. They got their constitution, and before you know it, they had lost control. They tried the banking stuff and that type of thing to get re-control. But when they went to Australia, they said, "You know what? We're not going to land families there and everything. Let's go land a bunch of convicts and let them clear the land, and we can still keep control of that particular continent." And so it's interesting how they learned from the American model and how they didn't let it happen, which eventually it did happen in Australia. It actually got, in fact, you guys are not even, you're only about 120 years old, 130.
Yes. In 1901, on New Year's Day, our country was created because someone signed a piece of paper. Interesting enough, all the states have a constitution, and there is an Australian constitution. And I think after, that's nearly over 100 years after the American Revolution War. It is fascinating how we didn't have a war. We just decided, you know what, let's join together. Maybe because back then England was the empire, not shrinking, but centralized control. And so it is kind of fascinating how the two countries have started. And that it seeps into the culture as well, because being on Revolution Radio, I occasionally get told, "Well, you see what happens when you gave up your guns?" It's like, well, not many of us did have guns. There were guns here, but I don't think I actually ever saw a gun apart from on a policeman in my lifetime.
And none of us really knew about false flags back then. It was it was one, but none of us had experienced it, and we had not had anything written into the Constitution to protect us of that or warn us that that we would be coming like there is in the American Constitution.
Well, that's right. You never had a Second Amendment.
Speak for yourself. Sorry, HiJacker. Yeah, speak for yourself. I did lose my guns. So
yeah, I was about to say Paul is one of those gun owners, so a different story, and still valid, of course. So that's what I mean. People did have guns, and did you give them up reluctantly, or did someone get them, or how did you?
Well, unfortunately, my mum's fiance, remarried. My little sister, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he gave them up because, the police knocked at the door. So they were registered, they were in the safe, and that's it.
Most of the guns were all registered anyway, so people knew that people, the operating people had them, so there wasn't a lot you could do.
Exactly. It was pretty ridiculous. All they were doing was screwing over us semi-autos back in the day. And we had some really classic ones. And mind you, most of them didn't get crunched. They got sold overseas.
Oh. Of course. Yeah. Oh, we could make money on this. Yeah. It's like the
Yeah, I
government
mean,
saying,
if I was a younger guy, I would actually design a sewing machine that had all of the parts of a firearm in it, actually part of the working parts of a sewing machine. Then I would patent it. Then I would get distributors in Australia. And so then I would send them the machine parts so they could put together these sewing machines. But really, they would have the cylinders, they would have the springs.
What movie is this from, HiJacker?
HiJacker, it's okay.
If it's
in
not
Australia,
a movie, it could be one.
Yeah,
No, I just thought of a big idea. That's all. I'm just saying, if I was younger, I'd be trafficking weapons to Australia right now.
Nice.
Oh, you wouldn't make it that far.
no, because people would figure it out. But still, I can imagine, like, hey, do you have a singer?
Yeah.
What, shotgun or a semi-auto?
Yeah. And where are the bullets coming from? Yeah.
I reckon you could get a deal with Netflix with that idea right now, today.
Actually, yeah, if it's written well, that is a good plot. Where had gun running through the fashion industry. I like that.
It's like Zoolander meets Rambo. No,
this
Zoolander meets what's the other with the two?
Come on.
Who's the two chemists?
The dresses.
Who's the two chemists in the van in the desert? Young guy, an old guy who was a teacher.
Oh yeah, no, that's Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Zoolander meets Breaking Bad.
But imagine this, down the catwalk, taser dresses. So if they touch anybody, the next person go and fall off the ramp. That'd be funny.
I like that.
Itself.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and then we can go into shock collars for pedophiles. Someone who doesn't have a shock collar, I'm not going to, because I can hear him as well. Viking, are you there?
I'm here. I had to reboot my entire system. I have Womblies on my internet.
Well, let's just blame Mercury, a complete whole planet, because apparently that's gone retrograde. So, mind you, it's probably everything else because we're in so much change and 2020 and nothing works. So, yeah.
We're coming out of Mercury retrograde November 3rd, right at the election.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. It's going to be a very interesting 3 weeks. I actually did some exercise today. That's why I'm feeling I'm physically tired instead of completely drained. So I'm like, hey, how you going? Which it's a good tired, whereas like I've done something, but going for a walk for an hour wearing a mask to breathe again. It's just 3 weeks. Going to be very interesting. Being 2020, I'm kind of scared of what the October surprise is going to be. Especially 3 days into October, Trump gets COVID and comes out of hospital without it in 4 days.
Yeah, it's October. It's getting to be more and more less of a surprise as Joe Biden stumbles his way. I mean, he was on today, some rally saying, I'm running for senator. I mean, he's just like losing it big time, man.
Yeah, I heard that he's running for the Senate. A journalist at one of his rallies, which is in a high school gym, and there's 8 people there. And then you see 8. Trump, then Trump's rally, whereas 15,000 people turn up. He was asked, there are a lot of people that don't like you or something. 54% said they don't want to vote for you. And his return was, well, they shouldn't. Like, is that how you supposed to garner votes? You're supposed to change people's minds so they vote for you, not actually, not take that egotistical thing of like, well, if you don't like me, don't vote for me then. What did I lose? I've said it my idea before, and I'll say it again. Once Trump won, instead of actually having a good hard look at the Democratic Party, of like, okay, let's find somebody, let's get policies, let's try and woo the voter and make America even greater than Trump's going to make it better type thing, make America great again. Let's make America fantastical and go into a utopia deal type thing. All they did was for 4 years, is act like a spawned teenager that got dumped because they saw someone else, and they've whinged and complained, and they've done every dirty. Instead of actually putting up a challenge to Trump with different ideas that will help and move America forward.
Yeah.
Nothing, absolutely nothing, and it's like, well, we don't like him. Orange Man bad, and it's after 4 years. Wow.
When's the last time you heard of politicians come out with some fresh ideas? Like even bother to say anything? You know?
Well, brace yourself and pause. Obama before the 2008 election. Because that was a bit of his chicanery, though. He brought there'll be change, and everyone gets a phone and all this type of stuff. So, because after 8 years of Bush Jr., anyone wanted a change, and Smooth Barry just sailed in and said the right things, and then we saw how that worked out for everybody.
President Cool.
Well,
Go ahead,
Mike. I beg to differ. I think Trump has some amazing vanguard ideas that they threatened to implement but never did, and then he basically expanded upon them and brought them to fruition beyond anybody's. I mean, I had no idea they would be able to. I mean, unlike any other president, in 4 years he's almost done every one. He's checked his list of everything he promised. You know what I mean? This is unprecedented. Usually, they come in here with all these ideas, and then of course they're just sale ads on the front window of the store, and once you're in there, everything is jacked up 5 times the price, and it's a bad deal, But this guy actually has, I would call him more of a Renaissance man.
Yes, apart from locking up Hillary, that seems to be a bit of a thorn in people's paw. But that's the first thing I liked about Trump. Like, for the first 7 weeks, he was fulfilling campaign promises, and I kind of went into shock to see a politician keep their word. It was like, what's going on? And then I think he had a meeting with the CIA, and he started to pull it back a bit. There was a sort of change because he just went in hard, and everyone's like, hey, too much change. You want to give the public an idea that they're doing well? Go ahead.
Remember this first year? I think it was midway through. He was almost ready to divulge who killed JFK. Remember, there was a huge fanfare, and
yes,
it almost happened, and then he got pulled back because I think he got threatened or something. But he almost went there. As far as Hillary goes, or for that matter, the abject 13, which is on their list, they cannot. I've said this time and time again. It has to happen in its proper time and place, and I believe that it will happen. It just has to happen in its proper time and place in order for this nation to unify. You don't want this nation to be divided into civil unrest, which would happen if any of the 13 at this point got arrested. You know what I'm saying? So I feel that it'll happen. I think we're going to see November and December be somewhat of a state of discord, but January on, I really see it being coming into more of a harmonics. And I just can't believe how fast time is flying. I mean, I was just on your show yesterday. It seems like, and my dreams are just epic. I'm getting into lucid dreaming now more than ever, and talking to galactics. And this is ridiculous what is happening with our time frame and these splitting of the densities and being in between two worlds, and how fast we are transiting as from mankind to humanity. We are transiting as we speak. This is it. We're in the thick of it. It's happening, guys. And there's no waiting. There's no dress rehearsal. Place your bets.
Right. So, Viking, let's fight now. Okay. So, we got 20 days to this election. Now, explain to me what your predictions are, whether we're going to keep the House, the Senate, the presidency. To explain to me how the Republicans are going to be overcome 80 million mail-in ballots, all the media against them, no verification of whatever they tell us on election night. And so what do you think is going to happen in 20 days from now on election night? Give to as close as you can say or what you think is going to happen. I'm taking for granted you're saying that Trump's going to win. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is what I'm seeing. I'm not thinking here. I'm seeing ahead here, kind of a possibility, a possible timeline. The way I see it happening is he's got the Ace of Hearts in his back pocket with SCOTUS. I think what's going to come down to contention. It's going to come down to this and that, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and it's going to rule in his favor. I really believe that this is how it's going to come down, and I hope that he can pull the House and the Senate with him at that point. But that's yet to be seen. If there's huge treachery in voter fraud, if the American at large shows up to vote and it's a landslide, then we basically have no problem. But so it's either going to be a landslide or it's going to be up to the Supreme Court. And either way, I feel that he has the tenure for the next four years.
Right. So what's the plan? Right now, we think that supposedly all the predictors, everybody's saying that Biden's going to win by like 91%. The same thing they said about Hillary. But the difference is that we've had 4 years of multi-billion-dollar corporations. When you pack them up, it's a multi-trillion-dollar corporations, 24/7, beating on Trump. I think 96% of all airtime over the mainstream media has been negative to Trump, the brainwashing, then the 80 million ballots. And so what I'm saying is that the left is fully expecting, fully brainwashed that Biden is going to win. Now, if Trump wins on election night, all hell is going to break loose. The left are going to burn. They're going to go out. So what is the plan? What is the Cuvian plan of that? To have a country literally ripped apart on an election? Or do you think Trump is going to win by such a landslide it's going to shut their mouth? Go ahead.
I said either timeline's possible. I feel that he will. Everybody that is monitoring this on the conservative side is seeing a landslide. I mean, all the channels that I navigate are seeing a landslide victory, unprecedented. There's a chance, there's a timeline out there, as I said, where it will not be decided that night and have to go to court. And I said, if he goes to court, he'll still win. I don't think that they have a chance at all. And all they could do is lie, cheat, and steal. I'm in liberal NPR country here. I can't even mention the word Trump. Northern California is lost. This is lost and forgotten here. But I just feel there's enough of the nation that is absolutely awoken to the fact of this deep state, light versus dark, and they want their jobs back, and they want to be able to put their kids in school, and they want to be able to have free trade, and there's enough of us out there where I feel it will create this momentum. However it plays out, it will play out. But I personally feel it's going to go to court.
Yeah, even if the election meddling doesn't work, they'll still take it to court. If it was just a free and unbiased election where it was truthful, Trump would get in with a landslide, because we'll get to that after this short break. You're listening to Revolution Radio. That snuck up on us. Planet Collingwood, I'm Monty Dean. You're awesome. Stick around just for a couple of moments and we'll be back into the thick of it. And welcome back to Revolution Radio. This is Planet Collingwood Open Roundtable. My name is Monty Dean. If you enjoyed the last hour, please go to freedomslips.com and or revolution.radio and donate what you can so we can continue broadcasting on Studio A and B here at Revolution Radio. It was 100% listener supported, so thank you for all your help, and thank you for listening and trying to get other people to listen as well.
And so, Monty, how can people throw a couple shekels towards you?
If you go to my YouTube channel, Wafer Thin Entertainment, there is a PayPal donation button in the links or at the bottom right-hand corner, there's a link of the banner, and every contribution is muchly appreciated, mainly because of the exchange rate. So if you give $10, I get 17 or something like that because of the exchange rate. So it's like I can buy food this week. So that's the best way that you can help me out if you choose to. Where was I? I was thrown. So yes, that's if you want to donate to me, that's the way. And if you're listening on YouTube, just click on the channel and follow the links, and it's all through PayPal. And you just go to freedomslips.com, as I said, and donate there. There's also merchandise, swag and hats and all that type of stuff. I'm losing weight, so I can finally put on the T-shirt so I don't look like a blimps in a sausage skin. So, yes, coming up for summer, hey. And then pop into the chat room and hang out with like-minded, like-hearted people. And I've got my eye on you. Hello, Flippy. It's always good to see you there. Now, I have been joined by HiJacker, the Viking, Cortek, and Opal. Pony's in the green room chucking down some walnuts, as one does. I'm sure he'll be back in an hour to have the Pony and Cortek show, which is the Planet Collingwood after party, where I try and listen to it as I can, depending of trying to edit and put the video up on YouTube. We were talking about if there is no criminality with the election, it looks like Trump will win. Ignore the polling, because they only ask Democrats in the polling, and they never really talk to the Republicans. And so the media are trying to manifest a reality like they did 4 years ago. And that's interesting enough, because it's similar to trying to bring in the New World Order. If it looks very Nazi Germany, most people I think everyone over 30 is like, hang on, because everyone over 30 is like, this looks very familiar, especially with like the draconian rules that they try to bring in Germany about masks and lockdowns, and everyone's gone, 9. We know the Germans have a good memory. They've gone through that once, and they're not doing it again. And so with the media pushing that, it's like once bitten, twice shy. They're playing the same playbook, and we saw how that played out, where they were completely wrong. Not really. Slightly off, they were completely wrong. Now, I've seen people talk about reports. They hardly find any Biden or Harris flags or posters or whatever they are in front lawns. However, a third of the country have Trump signs everywhere. And you can see it also, we mentioned in the last hour, the amount of people turning up to the Trump rally compared to turning up to a Biden rally. And the same thing with Hillary as well. Like during the primaries where it was Hillary and Bernie, it was like, well, Bernie's got to be the nominee because he's getting numbers like Trump. But it went to Hillary, who had 20 people turn up. Did you see the footage of they had a Biden not a drive-by, but they had a, what are they called? When a Biden rally where everyone drives and they have a motorcade and they do the support, and the Trump one,
they're honking their horn.
Yeah, like everything else like that. Yeah, actually, there was a Trump one of those in Los Angeles. It's like, wow, 2020. And yet the Biden one, it was 6 cars and about 8 people waving at them.
The thing with also the signs, there's a lot of Democrats out there that are afraid to say that they're voting for Trump too, and they'll just say Biden. When it comes to the polling stations, they've got Trump in their heart, and this is the way it's come down to. You can't even mention again, I'm in NPR country. I used to be a liberal. I used to listen to NPR. I used to take my daughter to school and on Sundays, and I tell you, man, it has gone so far left, and you can't even mention Trump to anybody without them falling into a puddle of spittle, and so I think there's so many Democrats out there that literally want Trump but can't say that.
I think 2020 is about knowing when to say that and have that conversation as well. Is it going to add something? Is it being kind? Is it correct? And a lot of the times you have to find yourself having that conversation before you would speak to someone and get into all that. When 10 years ago you would have jumped straight in the fray, and more now it's a more kind approach to where someone is individually on their journey of understanding things, it seems.
And there's an element of fear because if you say, I'm going to vote Trump, 3 people may lose their minds and start beating you because that's the level of stupidity that we're at because people are afraid of violence, which is understandable.
Well, it's not only that. They could lose their job. They could get their house burned down.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
The Viking's right. We don't know how big it is, but we know it's out there. There is a chunk of voters that aren't saying nothing. They're not saying nothing at all. And when they get in that polling place, I mean, you think they're really going to take a phone call from a pollster and saying, who do you lean to and this and that, when they realize that if they say, well, I'm kind of leaning to President Trump, the very next day, they end up losing their job? No.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah. They're going to take a phone call and they're going to find out it's a poll and they're going to go click. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah. Tim Pool, who grew up liberal, he voted for Hillary. He didn't think Trump was any good. However, in the last 4 years, I think it was the last 2 years, because Trump just had that track record of at least doing something. He's voting for Trump now because you can see, like, Biden has no idea where he is, and how is he supposed to be the leader of the free world? I mean, it's Reagan on crack.
It almost seems like they're trying to put like dumb-looking people in there so they can look like these people are actually responsible for the decisions. It almost looks like that. Yeah, but that couldn't be the truth, could it?
But I mean, like the vice presidential debate where the fly won because that seemed to get most of the coverage. But Harris just came across, like, when Pence would say a fact that you could go to YouTube and see 17 videos looking at it going, this is an actual fact in reality. She just had that sort of smug sort of smile like, and like you just want to punch. No, that's wrong. But still, like, she came across very.
That you'd love to hate if she was a movie character. Kind of thing.
Basically, because she was laughing and being real smug and like, I've got this type thing. And there are people like, we won the election because Kamala said I'm talking or whatever, and that's once. And then I saw another article saying, here's 15 things that she lied about. Like, even the Abraham Lincoln quote was wrong.
I don't think smugness gets you that far anymore. It might have
not especially now with the whole, like, for people on the call and listening, Cortek and I have a unique thing because we're standing on the outside looking in. Very cold chisel, but we've got that outsider view, and there's so much division and polarity where if you come across smug, and that's a very massive turnoff because you want to actually have that connection instead of that.
You want to make that decision for yourself too.
Yeah, and that's going back to what a lot of people aren't probably telling anyone about it because you have all these peaceful protesters as a warehouse burns down. You've got, because it all started because Trump won the election. There are people that still can't actually accept the result of that election, Hillary Clinton, and that's sort of unfortunately what we're going to see in 3 weeks is when a winner is finally declared. So I think the left would go completely nuts more than the right. Because I hate these labels, but the right conservatives have been sane in their reaction compared to I hate Trump, so I'm going to pick on a 16-year-old boy because wearing a hat instead of, first time in history, the disrespect towards the office of the president is beyond reproach. Where it's because their thinking is, well, he's disrespecting the office because he's in it, so we can say we hate, we'll make fun of the president.
Yeah,
but from now on, if I may very quickly, from now on, doesn't matter who gets in, that level of disrespect is going to follow the office. Go ahead.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, but Monty, can I jump in for a second? Yeah, before their election is our election, right? By Friday, October.
Is that Queensland?
23. No, I've got an election form, a mail-in one.
Yes. Thank you. I voted today. But finish your thought, sir.
Yeah. Anyway, It says on our electoral government phone, okay, local government electoral 2020. Okay, office electoral material. Okay, government Victoria Electoral Federal Commission. Okay, do not risk a fine. Make sure you mail in.
Is that what they open with?
Basically, yeah. So, for everyone listening outside of outside of Australia, it is compulsory to vote in Australia. Now, on the we have to have our mail. All these are council votes, which is similar to like Mayor of New York. And so we've got our different councils, how many, 400 or whatever, different little, like counties. I think that's one way of sort of explaining it in American speak. And so, yes. Okay. So it's all mail-in because of COVID. And you have to rip off a form, put the numbers down, and then put it into a letter, and then an envelope, and put that envelope into another envelope. And it has to, your mail-in vote has to be mailed by 6 p.m. on the 23rd of October, so it gets there in time and everything else like that. You're supposed to put 1, 2, 3 or how many or whatever. So I just put 0, 0, 0. I did a no vote because I don't think anyone's worth voting for. And so I basically did. And who knows if there's going to be any meddling with it, because there's constantly reports from the United States where, like in Texas, a guy found in a dumpster 8,000 mail-in votes or something like that. Over the last 3
stories, at least 2 massive stories of these different types of fraud and the way they're going about it, from 19,000 fraudulent IDs found here to something else here. Like, they're pulling out all the stops from this one. There's not one single ballot trick that is not going to be used in this one.
Yeah, well, I saw a report. I think it's an example, so I'm probably messing up tweets, but my father got 2 mail-in voting forms, and he's dead. And there's a great joke, like for the first time in my grandfather's life, he's voting Democrat. He died last year, but it's he voted Republican all when he was alive, but now he's jokingly say that the dead vote for the Democrat. So, but it's council level. It's local. It's the should you cut down a tree? You have to fill out a form. Garbage and rubbish and waste and all that type of stuff. So.
I don't want local. I think we can get rid of state. State is the biggest rot and waste of time and just trough of corrupt people.
Well, interesting enough, in Brisbane, you've got the Brisbane City Council, which covers all of it. So, like here in Victoria, there's the city of Melbourne. I'm in the city of Whitehorse, and that used to be the council of Whitehorse, which was just Box Hill. And that was only 13,000 people who live in Box Hill. And so, you would have to restructure the local councils into a sort of a bit bigger. Unlike, I think the United States has got a different way, because the governor of a state really is there just to make sure everything's running fine.
They do nothing, and they're just.
I know. I was about to say Oregon.
Caught up in corruption. Oh, I'm talking about Australia, but every single time. Each one caught out at being corrupt and just feathering their own nest, and that's all it's good for.
The author, Terry Pratchett, who unfortunately has died, he wrote the Discworld books. He wrote a story about Australia called 4X. And one joke was how they made Vegemite and they blew something up. But the one premise in that book was, like, once a politician is elected, they put him in jail just to save time. And so one of the characters actually has to go to a jail to talk to the sitting member.
Sounds fitting.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see, like, what will happen. But it's local. It won't. I don't know. The state elections in 2022. Be interesting to see if Dan Andrews makes it to there. But when is the cutoff for mail-in votes for the US election? Is it this week? Because if it's the 3rd, they have to have time to actually travel there. But
you'd get to like 3 weeks, wouldn't you? 2 at least.
Oh no! They got it where you can vote all the way up. In fact, they're going to count votes all the way into the 20th of November. I mean, it's really bad.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right because the election's on the 3rd. Yeah, apparently
Right.
in some places you can vote after the election. Like, I'm sorry, what? Like,
Right.
do you
That's the
understand
thing.
basic English? Like, you cannot vote after an election.
Yeah, that's the thing that's what I wonder with Viking, how they're going to overcome this 80 million mail-in ballots. I mean, we saw what they did just 2 years ago with 31 million mail-in ballots. They took the House of Representatives, swinging 40 seats, and that's why we got Pelosi. You can just imagine what Trump could have done if the House had stayed under Republican control. And so now they got like over 80 million. So
I was going to say, if Pelosi wasn't the House Speaker, Trump wouldn't have been battling an impeachment and could have had a better response to the COVID stuff.
all the sound bites, all the Mueller stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, that's why I doubt Q is. I mean, I don't see how that's part of the plan, especially when
I don't see how anything Q says can be backed up. It's like I love the sentiment, and because of it, you can see there's a lot of people who care. There's a lot of people who understand what's going on and want to do something to change. But the whole thing is just so cryptic. It's getting people chasing their tails, and none of it seems to come to fruition. There was early March stuff about Q stuff, and everyone was on board, and there were some timelines that were kind of put out. None of these timelines came through. You know, this is just it seems like it's sending people in circles, but it does show the amount of people who want to be involved in making a better place for everyone, you know?
Yeah. And interesting enough, about a week ago, I think it was, Facebook and Twitter, they purged a lot of QAnon stuff. And I was talking to someone, and a channel is changing all their titles so they can stay on because they're like nearly 400,000 subscriptions, and so they're locked into that's their revenue stream, and they don't want to be cancelled because they've got just references to Q.
Change it to R.
Or something like, Republican or not. But the thing is as well that now that this, by that bit of information, it's like, well, hang on, if it's nothing and there's no threat, why are they trying to squash it and censor it on the big tech companies?
Oh, that's because that's a way of reinforcing. It's sort of like the Weatherman Underground syndrome. What do they call it? Stockholm.
Stockholm, yeah.
Words, yeah, you hit somebody. Oh, you're being banned because you're really telling us the truth, the type thing. But no, I'll tell you one thing. In 20 days, if the Democrats win, Q's dead. The Vikings Galactic Federation Light or whatever, they're dead. X-22 report's dead. SGT report, he's dead. Your Pence is dead. Republican Party's dead. You're taking a look at
politics is dead.
Australia's dead. I mean, it's really, really bad in about 20 days if it goes bad.
Well, maybe.
I don't see any
because
way.
I'm not manifesting this. I'm just playing the what if game. So because I've created it, probably never happen. If they try and do that and they stamp everything out with the rioting and the protesting, that's mainly paid provocateurs and dumb far left people. And the right, you don't see the right, losing their minds if someone loses a job or anything else like that. A good example is Trump got sick. Half the left started praising him to die, and if someone on the left gets sick, the conservatives and the right say, "Oh, we hope you get better." That's the two. That's the two different things. Can you imagine, on a very basic level, in a totally different world, the right actually rising up and trying to do riot and do all that stuff?
Well, Monty, there's actually, in fact, some of you more computer savvy type people, it's only about like a minute and 30 or 40 seconds. But it's a little speech called The Lion by Christopher Walken. I think you can find it on YouTube. And so to give the analogy of the difference between the left and the right, yeah, if Trump wins, the left is going to go completely crazy, burning, looting, doing whatever they're going to do. It's going to be hell on wheels, unless Trump wins by a landslide. If he wins by a landslide and he puts some kind of executive directive saying we're not going to put up with this anymore, federalizing or deputizing the law enforcement, then that will be over. However, if Trump loses, you're right, Monty, the right does not rise up like the left does, but they rise up sort of like that little clip of Christopher Walken, little speech on The Lion. And basically, I don't know, does any of y'all have that little it's only about 1 minute and 40 seconds. He talks about the lion, what actually happens, and it's kind of like what happens when the right actually rises up.
Yeah, they'll do a peaceful protest and all that stuff. Like,
no, I'm saying when the right rises up, that little clip about the lion, and it goes something like this. Well, you ought to get the clip. Somebody ought to get the clip and play it, because I can't do it better than Christopher Walken.
Well, not the accent.
It's only like 1 minute 33 seconds. It's called The Lion.
But in the last 2 months, there was it Louisiana where conservatives and right people turned up to the State House, and everyone thought it would be a bloodbath. And it was just a lot of patriot Americans with weaponry voicing their dissent of a decision. And there was no scuffle, there was no violence from memory, nothing like that. And it's not like Charlottesville where you actually had morons turning up and going, "See, Kyle, Via's a white supremacist," and they cause crap and all that type of stuff. But strangely enough, the left don't turn up when the right have guns. But the on a basic level, the far left are insane and they can't handle their reality. And the very small far right are ostracized by the right because the far right are very far right are idiots. We're superior. Yeah, good luck. But the left labels everyone right and conservative, where like Stephen Crowder, I use Stephen Crowder as an example. He's willing to talk to liberals and left people and try and understand and engage with a conversation. And if you do no harm, you're allowed to be free. But the left, if you actually disagree with them, you're labeled a Nazi, racist, homophobe, everything else like that. You should be cancelled and put in a catapult and thrown to Mars.
Yeah, there's no more even statesman conversation. There is no more discussion even, my way or the highway, it seems.
Well, it doesn't help
sorry, like you said before, it doesn't do much for politics in general.
No.
Regardless who wins of this, it's still stained with what efforts were taken to win by whichever side.
Yeah, have you seen how Biden is still perpetuating the lie that Trump said there's good people on both sides? And he nearly get into a fist fight with somebody who said, you do know he denounced white supremacy a second before he said that. We've all seen the footage. But either he's got dementia or his handlers won't let him. He only uses that sample. They've been clipped. Even it was in the vice presidential debate where Pence said, and this is why Americans don't like the media, because things are edited and taken out of context.
Yeah.
It's...
I
Now
don't see any way that this is not going to be played out to be the messiest result ever. I think.
Well, go ahead, Viking.
Well, I was going to say that the obstruction is going to happen on polling day. I mean, this is why I believe Trump activated the state National Guard, to help. It could be an absolute shit show. And he could, there's a timeline that's even saying that the election is going to be forfeited and there's going to be a huge coup and the 13 will be arrested. anything can happen. There's so many timelines out there. There's not one that is showing precedence at this point. I also wanted to mention, we were talking about a half hour ago about the descent of the president. We noticed how since he got in office, one of the, on all the mainstream media and anybody from the left refers to him as Trump. Now, I've always known through my history, we always refer to the president as President Trump. Everybody on the right refers to him as President Trump. But this
statesmanly respect.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a subliminal sabotage by calling him Trump. They're not admitting that he's president. And it's really, it's just absolutely just beyond honor. You know, these guys are beyond honor.
They don't seem to realize that they don't get the respect back if they win. You know, that this is disrespecting a position that is tarnished no matter who's in office. People had very, very little respect for politicians as it was.
Did anyone see a video went around, I think maybe at the end of last year, and it was after, it was the whole Russia. Someone put together a clip of CNN and all those people, and they would use the same soundbite. This is the end for Trump. And they said it for 18 months. They were so wanting to manifest that Trump's going to leave, that anything that came out about the Trump administration that was, fishy or wrong, it's fascinating to watch, where it's like, this is the end for Trump, and then the date just kept ticking over, and they keep saying the same thing of, this is the end. He has to resign or whatever it was, and I think Viking, you've brought it up many a time. If there was any criminality by Trump, they would have actually used it by now. Because, the impeachment thing is like, he made a phone call asking about Biden's corruption. And that was that classic thing of like, accuse your enemies of what you've actually done. And
that's the whole Russian thing. The Russiagate is exactly that. They had to put the Russiagate out there because they themselves were guilty.
Yeah, well, even Biden, like you can see. I remember him. He was talking at the Council of Foreign Relations, speaking about that story where he was on the phone to someone higher in the Ukraine government and said, "If you do not get rid of that investigator who was investigating my son, we will withhold the Prime Minister. Yeah, we withhold the $1 billion grant or whatever it was." And he was chuckling and he was happy about it. And then, because Trump rang up and said, "What's going on with this?" And everyone thought, well, see, he's doing quid pro quo, because it was so transparent. I'm like, hang on, Trump's asking about that, and you're ignoring. It's like when Trump was running for office 4 years ago. Why do you hate Trump? Oh, he says things. Yeah, strangely enough, the Clintons have done those things. They're not saying them.
It's a big old list.
Yeah, and it's like, and this is where, like, you're a Trump supporter only because you're ignoring someone worse. And if it was, if anyone could be president, I wouldn't vote for Trump. But your options are Trump and Mr. Magoo. I mean, Biden. Even Mr. Magoo's going, what's wrong with him? And so it boggles the mind that someone that needs to be like, Trump actually tweeted a meme where it's got Biden for president and someone's crossed out the P. So it's Biden for resident, and it's a photo of a common room at a nursing home and Biden sitting in a wheelchair. That's one thing I do like about President Trump. He's got a wicked sense of humor. Or whoever's got the Twitter, like, his sense of humor, like, he could easily, like, if he does lose and America doesn't burn down, he's going to make billions of dollars on the talking circuit because he knows how to work a crowd. He's extremely funny and he's very engaging.
Well, no, I actually disagree, Monty. If Trump loses, they've got to kill the name brand. They got to kill Trump. Trump embodies the movement. And so they're going to bring him up on charges. He doesn't realize it, or maybe he does, but if he does lose, they're going to get him on tax. They're going to get him on various lawsuits. they're going to hound this man into the ground because he does represent a movement that rose up, and they're gonna make Trump an example that anybody else like a Trump.
They don't want to make a martyr. They don't want to be careful not to make a martyr.
They're not going to kill him.
Yeah, but Cortek, you got to remember these people are idiots.
Yeah, they definitely are. They're shooting. HiJacker. I don't see Trump not winning. I really don't. I mean, there's so many ways that he can. There's so many cards he can pull out of his back pocket, and I just as devious as the deep state is and the Democratic Party is, they just don't have it. They're absolutely just shooting themselves in the foot. And it'll be, 3 weeks, man. As this is so.
Viking, I agree with you. This is why I agree with you, is that the people that are around Trump, that are in his administration, they're really smart Jewish Zionists, and they fully know that at the end of the day, with the Biden administration, it's going to be Kamala Harris, and there's no way that she can lead a nation to a war with Iran or with China, or she's going to be able to handle the bankruptcies. We're getting ready to go through a massive worldwide real economic crash right after the election. And so I think you're right. I think the really smart people are saying, you know what? We need Trump in there. He will hold, he will stabilize, he will hold the country together. And the Israelis, particularly the Zionists, know they need that. And so I think at the end of the day, those people are actually going to win this war that we're in. So yeah, that's why I agree with you.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say they're not on their council, but I think he's got more generals and businessmen and CEOs that are literally patriots. I think it's more going to be a patriot victory. The Zionists might be in there, but I don't think that they're going to hold the line as much as the actual JFK
Patriots
roundtable.
Well, it does look like, and I'll hand over to Paul and say, it does look like that just from the last 5 months, since George Floyd, it like Biden and the Antifa and the Democrats, they want to watch the world burn because they think they're right. And so there are a lot of people that are voting Trump because they don't want this insanity to get in control.
My rattle, if I won't have it, no one will kind of attitude.
Yeah, they're so childish. Like Lusitania in chat, great name. It's a shame about the boat. But he said, like, instead of and then I will hand over to Paul. I do apologize. Teenagers know they're acting like 2-year-olds, and was like, yes, that is so much better. Paul, go ahead.
Okay, yes, I understand. The fun part about the Trump and this and that and the Biden one, right, is we already know. We've been looking on the outside, from the outside in,
mm-hmm.
because we've got a different perspective. We can see on both angles and and the jargon and the newspaper, rhetoric, which it always has been.
Did you just make up a new word there?
Yes, you did. Just don't break the flow. Don't break the flow. We'll go back to that.
As you were.
Or the rhetoric, or all of the other BS that they're trying to portray, right? It's quite a communal idea of we're all looking at America at the moment, which is funny, like I said. And, poor Joe, I call Kangaroo Jumping Joe, right? Because he's all around the court, apparently. So... Yeah,
Paul, you'll love this quote. You've heard this before. You're Australian. He's got a couple of loose kangaroos in the back paddock, if you know what I mean.
Oh, definitely, totally. Oh, I think he had a whole mob there.
So, and that word was per spectrum. It still makes sense to me.
I love it. I can use that if that's shared word.
So tell me, Cortek, what's your perspectrum on?
It's so much. It encompasses so much more. Such a simple question.
Yeah, and also in a perfect world, for me, once again, I'm creating it, so it may not happen, or it will. Let's find out. Trump makes it, however, it may be a gauntlet, and he's got to crawl through broken glass and 6 foot of mud because. It goes to the courts, and then there's easily found corruption in the mail-in ballots and everything else. At the end of the day, Trump wins before the 20th of January, and he gets inaugurated. Once by that, if the crimes are exposed to the Democratic Party, they should face justice. Someone needs to. That's the other thing.
Sweet. Oh my God! Yeah. Imagine the global healing.
Yeah.
From people facing justice from 9/11 and onwards.
Yeah, stuff like even at that level, but still just the little things of Hillary and her emails, and Trump, Obama,
Strzok, Page, Brandon,
everything else,
all those guys, 13.
All the mainstream crimes that have been put out there, and somehow whatever, all that happens. Trump becomes president. Just right near the end. Please hold your thought, Viking, because you can follow on. I would like to be able to hammer Trump on anything if he does something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be able to go, well, why aren't you doing this? Instead of, because we're at this point where if you criticize the Trump administration, you get lumped with those idiots. And I don't want to be with those idiots going, look, Trump's a bad man. It's like, no. Okay, why are oil prices at this level? Blah, you know what I mean? Where you actually have public discourse and just actual politics and democracy, if I can use that word, where the president is failing on this subject, so we should be able to challenge him on it, not for point scoring, just to make it better.
Yeah, no one person is going to be able to keep complete control about that. This should be a group exercise, you know?
Yes. HiJacker.
Yeah. There might be. This is something nobody's thought of, but since Viking used that number 13, now what he's talking about is the 13 indictments that were supposed to come down for the unmasking today, and Bob Barr, along with Durham, said that there's going to be no criminal prosecution. So what could have happened today is we could have seen the inside man, the broker, the political broker, and the legal broker, Bob Barr, with the Clintons, the Bushes, and President Trump, worked out a deal to where they basically dog whistled or told us today that there's not going to be any of these indictments for this, dirty dozen or 13 people. And so basically what we could have watched today, what happened, which people don't understand it, well, you go ahead and say it, Viking. What happened today where they declined to prosecute? I'm saying there was a deal that was finally cut for the final election today, that there's going to be no prosecutions, and it was signaled that in the second term of President Trump, he's not going to go back and prosecute these people. But Viking, about the 13 people you talked about, go ahead.
Well, I haven't heard that angle. My understanding is that they can't prosecute before the election. I still feel that after the election, it's going to be all gloves off. These 13 have been, again, you're talking about CIA, the FBI, and the entire espionage around the FISA. All this is going to has to come out, and I don't feel that they're not going to prosecute. I just think they've just extended.
Yeah, but I'm saying 20 days out from the election, Bob Barr comes out and he goes, the Attorney General, the CIA, the DNI, the FBI, none of these 13 major players are going to be indicted for the unmasking of all this. I think a deal was actually cut today. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that might be. That's news beyond me.
Yeah, but let's take a look at the timing. The timing is 20 days out. All of a sudden, we get hit with this news. By the way, the whole, coup that was set up is now null and void. We're not going to prosecute. It's almost like saying, okay, give Trump a second term. He's not going to go after you. The deal is cut. Bob Barr, the broker, is in the middle, and the deal is done.
like saying,
And so if it's true, we should see the media start to change in the next couple of days. Go ahead.
Maybe it's them just saying, look, it's going to be messy as it is. Let's just leave this until after. Perhaps.
But that could be the October surprise when damning evidence, like there is enough already out there.
It's not going to go away, and more people are waking up to the fact that people are responsible and want some healing, for all those people who lost their lives.
I watched Joe Rogan, and he's joking that he was talking about a gangster hitman who did time and he got out 35 years later, and he's doing podcasts. And he's like, so is Hillary Clinton. Look at that, both murderers are doing podcasts. That's the joke, that the Clintons are murderers, and that's the reality we're living in, where certain people get away with murder. And I think in our reality, we'll have to get to a point of like they should be punished for their actions.
There's no point where we get lazy about it and accept that as a fact. It's not going away.
Yeah, like they've never arrested a president. Well, first then.
Wait a minute, Cortex. Think about it. If there was a deal cut today, and that would make sense, it is the 13th of October in this occult language, and 13 people are basically going to walk out of the mouth of Barr if he did cut a deal. Let's take a look. What happens the day after the election of President Trump, if the deal was cut for that? What is his hands going to be full of? His hands are going to be full with anywhere from 30 to 40 million people getting evicted from apartments, people not being able to pay their electric bills, an economic collapse, potentially a war with China. We're never going to think about these 13 again. The news cycles are going to be about the South China Sea, and 10.5 million people are getting evicted, can't pay their mortgages. So I think we've got the skeleton key, the Rosetta Stone of what happened today. A deal today was cut with the Trump administration to keep President Trump in the power by denying all of this stuff and letting it go away.
What if Barr is replaced and that next person brings it all up again?
Yeah, it's that easy.
It'd be interesting.
It's a bit hearsay anyway about what happened today.
But I guess also with remember due process. Remember that lofty idea. If it's too early, it's too close to the election to try and do anything. It would be just political point scoring. However, people have said that there's definite. Trump has actually said we've caught them. The whole spying stuff before the previous election, and if it's fascinating to see how Trump is showing how he isn't God Emperor in a certain way, because he's a dictator. Well, if that was true, he wouldn't be dropping those bombs of like, we know Obama and Clinton and all that criminals and they should get justice. He would just lock them up.
Well,
no, he did that a couple days ago. No, let's face it. President Trump a couple days ago tweeted out Obama, Hillary, the coup, all the rest. He laid that out. And then here a couple days later, Bob Barr pokes up and says, no criminal prosecutions of the major 13 characters. I'm telling you, a deal was cut. That's really what happened today.
Well, we'll see in the next
20 days.
Yeah, but I mean, the main thing is you pointing out, Monty. The past 6 months he's been saying we have it all. We have all the information. It's all there. He's been saying that we have everything that's needed to bring everything down. It's like he continually uses that phrase. But I just feel that the main skirmish right now is into the 23rd for the SCOTUS, the elected Supreme Court judge, and then we got 10 days of absolute mayhem, and this is where it's going to be interesting, is from the 23rd to the 3rd, exactly how that plays out. It's going to be the badger in the corner and how that badger was going to leash out is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I can see them making a mistake when they do lash out. And that could be the surprise where, it'd be interesting. Now, is there going to be a third debate? Because I know the second one's been cancelled because they didn't want to do a Zoom room, which makes sense because even I have, just on these type of calls, people overstep each other without on purpose, where it just naturally happens because there's slight delay. And you saw the first presidential debate.
See anyone either. For social thing,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that way Biden doesn't have to look at Trump at all. He only looked at him once or twice while in the room. But whoever's moderating that, it would be just pure hell because it could be loss of connection, blah, 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 Biden from his basement. So I can understand why it would be a wash to try and do that. Anyone got
not
time?
Wasting, he's not wasting time, though. He's using all that. All the airtime going to rallies. I mean, he's like the Energizer Bunny. He's just on full tilt boogie here. As many rallies as he could put in. He's doing it.
Yeah. Anyone got a TARDIS? I just want to skip these next 3 weeks. It's that whole waiting thing. It's for good or ill. Let's just get to it. Hopefully,
you can't. These timelines are the way they play out is that I go into the future in my assertion and I staple in what I feel is in my perspective or spectrum is the best possible outcome, and by doing that you literally start taking control of the future. You can literally go ahead 3 to 4 weeks, put in your vote. And that does add to the conscious grid of humanity, and it messes with the deep state timeline of it falling apart. You actually staple over it. And this is described by the white knights who are time travelers and how they do it. And we can actually do it by envisioning how you see the future and sticking with that timeline.
And that's 10 times more powerful than someone's half-assed opinion on something who's just getting that from watching the media, which is which is used to influence, trying to influence other people so much,
Well, the media is there to create the disruption of the timeline and to create a chaos, so people can't be in their passion, they can't be in their vision, and basically it's weaponized to create trauma, fear, and chaos. This is their mission, this is their job, and they're doing a great job because they move forward, they're actually waking people up.
Well, I was going to say, because they're not doing that well anymore. Because if you remember, was it last week or the week before, Ted Cruz was interviewed on CNN by one of the Comos. And they got into a stoush because Como started defending his brother and Ted was just sharing facts. Where, the president's blamed for 200,000 deaths, and Mr. Cruz basically said, well, Trump didn't send back people with COVID into nursing homes. And it was a moment of history where, he's defending his family honor, but still it was fake, or they're just holding on to that reality where, Trump's the villain of the piece. And, Trump done better? Probably. It probably would have helped if he wasn't fighting impeachment at the same time. And Harris actually, I'm going to try and do this respectful thing. Is it Mrs. Harris or Miss Harris? Anyway, Lady Kamala was saying they knew about it for 10 days and blah, 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 blah. It's but you impeached him over a phone call and it didn't go anywhere. And it was how much money was wasted and all that as well. Well, and people are still saying he was impeached. No, the idea we should impeach him, and then Pelosi didn't take it to the Senate quick enough or something. You know what I mean? It's all theater, bad street theater. Go ahead.
I disagree. I think Trump did a stellar job because he locked down the nation, immediately canceled all flights.
Oh yes, yes.
Canceled all flights to China. And even with that, he was being ostracized by the Democrats for being xenophobic.
Yeah,
I think he actually did an excellent job of bringing ventilators in and having, the mercy and comfort off the shores. What more could he have done in this false pandemic?
Well, yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at. He could have done much better. but he could all have done much worse. And because of the position he was in, because the Democrats were having a tanty as a 2-year-old, he wasn't able to focus on. And also, some of those briefings were really weird. Remember when someone said, "Oh, it's just a drill," and half the people on the stage are like, "What do you mean? So it's not a drill?" Or what? There's all this weird stuff behind it, and yet. Thank you for bringing up the thing. Biden actually said, "Oh, it's xenophobic. How dare he stop people coming in?" Because there's a pandemic. They have an outbreak. These are the same people that dealt with swine flu, where more people died, and they didn't shut down and everything else like that. And it's amazing how certain people that just can't deal with reality, their version of history. Global history started in 2016.
The whole mad cow thing does seem like one big animal sacrifice to over.
Did you hear the governor, some woman in Wisconsin, wanted to do a second phase lockdown, and the state courts denied her being based on was unconstitutional. So it is starting to turn around here. It really is. I mean, you got North Dakota completely free and clear, Florida completely free and clear. I mean, it's really starting to unfold, and as being one of the biggest crimes against humanity ever perpetrated on this planet.
And you've got Sweden, which they had a first wave, and they've got through it, and everyone's living freely and got on with their lives. Now, on the flip side of that, apparently the far-left Green Party wants to ban men standing up to urinate.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Is that something they only have to make one type of toilet sleeve? Does fold up?
Yeah, they'll probably get rid of urinals, and so it's illegal to stand up to urinate.
Yeah, that's right. You have to sit down on the dunny.
Yeah,
or the thunderbox.
Now I don't know if they're in charge, but that's the Green Left Party that put that idea forward, and it's
but
really?
You can understand. You can understand why.
They'll have to sit down on the thunderbox outside, right? In Australia, we've got a thing called the outdoor dunny, and that'd be quite amusing because you wouldn't like to sit on the thunderbox every now and again unless you got a can of fly spray.
When I lived in North Fitzroy, they had an outhouse, and Australian summer. Yeah, I know it's the same thing, but I'm just pointing out Australian summer, not the best time to go to the toilet because you're sweating so much. The toilet paper turns into paper mache, and I'll leave it there. It is. I do feel like if you remember, like Steve McQueen put into isolated into the box or whatever it was. That the punishment. Ball. Yeah, no, not that. That's the cell. But when you put into that small box, I can't remember what they call it.
It's called the hole.
Yeah. Basically, they put you in even the Japanese did it as well. They put you in a very small, like a gutted beehive, and they lock you in. It's usually metal, and there's hardly any airflow, and it's torture basically. That was using a toilet in North Fitzroy. So I'm glad for indoor plumbing.
God bless those Romans.
What have the Romans done for us? Now we're coming up to the end of the show. So Viking, would you like to actually give out how people can contact you, or at least where they can hear you on Revolution Radio?
Yeah, I can't be contacted, but you can hear myself and Conrad and Chris. We're part of the council. It's called the Galactic Interstellar Council. We air Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Studio A. And this week, it's hard to say. We're in the thick of it. So we're trying to unpack the alternatives to how you can view this incursion of our sovereignty.
Thank you. Cortek, any final thoughts?
I know that's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Friday. That sounds good.
Yeah, US time, not our time.
That's why I keep missing it.
Yeah, because I think it's like 3 a.m. in the morning for us. Will you be popping on with Pony afterwards for the after show?
I don't know. Yes. I don't know. If he wants to chat. I don't know what he's doing.
There you go.
He's mysterious.
Here. If you can't catch the show, it is on YouTube. All the shows are posted on Christopher Jacobs' channel. Christopher Jacobs.
Yeah,
So
that's how I get to work. So
would it be 3 a.m. Saturday?
I can't. Yeah, well, yeah. It's I'll say it's 11. So what time is that for Eastern Standard Time? So that'll be 1 o'clock, isn't it? So
Yes.
So 6 is 9. Time zones. I hate them.
It's actually 2. It's actually 2 o'clock. We're 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. So it'll be 5 a.m. our time, Cortek, Saturday morning.
Huh? Cool.
Yeah. Paul, any final thoughts?
Just wait for the elections. Victoria and America too. Over.
Yep, Queensland's having one as well, and yeah, fun and games as always. So big thank you to HiJacker as well as Pony for joining us, and of course you did, listener, as well. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Bit of a laid-back one, still sharing the old information as you do. We will return in 6 days and 22 hours because that's how Planet Collingwood lolls. We are leaving. You're listening to Revolution Radio. You're awesome. I'm going to bed. So we'll see you all soon. Take care, everybody, and yeah, stuff.